Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us for this webinar around why Excel and Word are not enough to manage complex requirements. Before we dive into the content, let me cover a few housekeeping items. At the bottom of your screen are multiple application engagement tools that you can use. All those engagement tools are resizable and movable, so feel free to move them around to get the most out of your desktop space. Most importantly, you can expand your presentation area or maximize it to full screen by clicking on the arrows in the top right corner. If you happen to have any audio or video issues, you can check the help widget, which is located at the bottom of your screen. You will find common answers to some technical issues that you might encounter. Please note that a copy of today's slide deck is already available in the resource list, together with additional help materials that are related to the topic that we're going to cover today. Please have a look and download everything that you may find useful. Lastly, if you have any questions during the presentation, you can submit them through the Q&A. We will have a short Q&A session at the end where we'll select some coming from the audience, but we're here to answer you live via the chat throughout the presentation, so don't hesitate to reach out. In case we run out of time or we didn't manage to answer your question, we'll make sure to follow up later by email. And finally, last important point, this webinar is recorded and you will receive the recording by email in the coming days. Now, allow me to introduce you to our speaker. So today the webinar will be hosted by Jeroen Frikken, who is Senior Consultant at Jama Software. Prior to Jama, Jeroen had many experience. So first 10 years of experience in IT service management, through various roles such as implementation consultant, project manager, and solution consultant, and also 6 years of experience in software asset management as solution consultant and customer success manager. Currently working at Jama, Jeroen is helping customers get the most out of the platform and customize it to their needs. So from there, Jeroen, I will hand it over to you to introduce the agenda to the audience and start your presentation.
All right. Thank you, Marie, for the great introduction. So today we're going to focus on the requirement management tools and why Word and Excel just isn't enough. We will first talk about the challenges and the pitfalls you will encounter when using a document-based approach for your requirement management process. We will then show you the benefits of a data-driven approach and why this is the preferred method over a document approach. And we will end with an overview of how Jama can actually help you with this and close with a Q&A. The development of products and the delivery of them are more complex today than ever before. Products today are having many different parts and are combining hardware, software, and various engineering approaches all together. Many industries, like the medical device, automotive, and aerospace and defense industry, for instance, also require that complex product developers apply to safety standards and regulations. Organizations have to work in a more efficient and effective way if they want to stay ahead to their competition. Despite this, many teams are still using Word and Excel to manage requirements for these very complex products. This means they are missing real-time collaboration and insights, end-to-end traceability, and integration with product testing. Now, I am sure most of you are familiar with the term requirements management, but just in case you're not, requirements management is the process of making sure you build just the right product. And for products that will have different releases or versions over time, understanding the changes to these requirements and their impact is a continuous process throughout the complete development cycle. Basically, you can view requirements management in 3 different ways. First, obtain and document the requirements. In a world of competing priorities and different opinions, this is always a challenge and typically the responsibility of business analysts, system engineering, and product owners. Secondly, once we have documented the requirements, we need to review and confirm they are the correct requirements. Are the requirements we document really what the user or the customer needs? Confirming this is often called the process of validation. And this is typically done by product managers, customers, or users. Last but not least, you may need to work with the requirements so you can confirm the teams have built the product according to the documented requirements. This process is typically called verifying the requirements or verification. Developers, testers, and quality assurance leads are key stakeholders in this process. Now, many companies focus on software or tools to help implement requirements management. These are very important, but you want to think about your requirements management process and requirements management tools as two separate things that work together. Classic industries are saying that the process should inform the tool. I do believe this is true, but I also believe it can be a little give and take from each side. For organizations that lack process, some software tools can offer a standardized approach and best practices, but you always want to use these as guidance. At the end of the day, a good process without a tool is always better than a good tool without a process. And there are many required method processes and methodologies that are proven to work. So let's take a look at the challenges of using documents. Word documents that are hundreds of pages long and Excel spreadsheets can consist of thousands of lines, making them extremely difficult to maintain. Sharing these constantly evolving files among multiple stakeholders and different teams throughout the development and testing process is difficult, frustrating, and very time-consuming, not to mention risky. And with your customer demanding a perfect product delivered, well, preferable yesterday, you can no longer afford that kind of inefficiency. Now, Word and Excel undoubtedly serve a purpose. For early phase documentation and for coordinating small, simple projects, they still remain effective tools. But as product development grows more complex, teams need solutions that provide simple and streamlined collaboration. They need to be able to connect globally distributed teams members together, and they need to capture and facilitate feedback, decision-making, and context for the requirements under review. Many companies are writing their software requirement specifications in Word and Excel, but a document-based approach for storing requirements has many limitations. A couple of examples about these limitations are, well, for starters, it is difficult to keep the documents current and synchronized. Communicating the changes to all affected team members is a manual process. It is very difficult to store additional information about each requirement, and it is hard to define links between requirements and other system elements. It is difficult to track the current status of a requirement. Managing sets of requirements at the same time, which are planned for different releases or for related products, is difficult. If you want to reuse a requirement, it means that you must copy the text from the original requirement specifications into the new requirement specifications. It is extremely difficult for multiple project participants to modify the requirements safely, especially if the participants are geographically not at the same location. And the last one, there is not really a convenient place to store requirements that were initially proposed, but then rejected, or requirements that were deleted from the baseline. So let's take a look how you could benefit from a data-driven approach. Despite rising complexity and regulation, most development teams do not have a sophisticated requirement management system in place. In a response on a survey held a while ago, almost 1/3 of the teams responded that they have no system in place and rely on formal processes with email, documents, shared spreadsheets, etc. Another 52% manage their requirements with a system which is not meant for managing requirements, like PDM or PLM systems. And only 15% have chosen to invest in a formal dedicated requirement management solution. Now, avoid the temptation to develop your own requirements management solution or to grab some general Office applications in an attempt to copy a requirements management tool. This initially looks like an easy solution, but it can quickly overwhelm a team that doesn't have the resources to build a true requirements management tool.